The golden age of peace. The great crystal dome of Harmony Station sparkled like a jewel against the black canvas of space. Inside its transparent walls, representatives from 5 different worlds gathered for the most important celebration in galactic history. Today marked exactly 500 years since the last act of violence had been recorded anywhere in their corner of the universe. Commander Zara Keth stood at the observation deck, her 6 arms folded in the traditional Zentari pose of respect. Her silver skin reflected the soft blue lights that illuminated the station's main hall. As head of Galactic Security, she had the honor of presenting the annual peace report to the assembled dignitaries. The numbers always made her proud. 0 conflicts, 0 territorial disputes, 0 weapons discharged in anger. It was a perfect record that stretched back 5 centuries. The hall buzzed with gentle conversation as beings from across the galaxy mingled freely. The tall, graceful Etherians floated above the crowd, their translucent bodies glowing with contentment. Near the refreshment stations, the rock-like Corvin delegates stood in their characteristic circles, their deep voices rumbling in harmony. The aquatic mollusk representatives had brought their mobile water chambers, allowing them to participate fully in the festivities. And scattered throughout were the insect-like Nexari, their compound eyes reflecting the light in dazzling patterns. High Chancellor Vox glided over to where Zara stood. The Etherian leader's form shifted from blue to gold, indicating his excitement for the ceremony. "Commander Keth," he said in his melodious voice, "are you ready to deliver the most perfect peace report in galactic history?" Zara nodded, though something had been troubling her for weeks. "Yes, Chancellor, though I must mention that our deep space monitors have been detecting some unusual energy signatures lately." The Chancellor's color shifted slightly toward purple, showing mild concern. "Anything that threatens our peace?" "Probably not," Zara replied, though her voice carried uncertainty. "The readings are coming from the outer rim, beyond our normal patrol routes. They're too faint to identify, and they disappear before we can get a clear scan." Vox's color returned to gold. "Space is vast and full of mysteries, Commander. I'm sure it's nothing more than cosmic radiation or perhaps an undiscovered pulsar. Today is about celebrating what we've achieved, not worrying about shadows in the void." The ceremony began with the traditional hymn of unity, sung in the native languages of all 5 species. The harmony was beautiful, representing how different voices could blend together in perfect peace. Zara took her place at the central podium as thousands of beings fell silent. "Fellow citizens of the Galactic Union," she began, her voice carried to every corner of the dome by advanced translation systems. "Today we celebrate not just peace, but the wisdom that made peace possible." The crowd listened intently as Zara recounted the dark times before the Union was formed. 500 years ago, their galaxy had been plagued by constant warfare. One species in particular had been responsible for much of the chaos. They called themselves humans, and they seemed incapable of existing without conflict. The humans were explorers, scientists, and artists, Zara continued. But they were also warriors who could not control their violent impulses. Every world they touched knew conflict within a generation. Every alliance they joined eventually crumbled into war. The historical records were clear. Humanity had possessed remarkable intelligence and creativity, but they used these gifts to create increasingly destructive weapons. They formed governments that lasted centuries, only to tear them down in civil wars. They made contact with peaceful species and inevitably dragged them into their conflicts. Our ancestors tried many times to help the humans find a peaceful path, Zara explained. We offered them membership in early galactic organizations. We shared our knowledge of conflict resolution. We even gave them entire star systems where they could develop without outside interference. But nothing had worked. The humans continued to spread across the galaxy like a wildfire, bringing chaos wherever they went. Their military technology advanced at an alarming rate. Their population grew exponentially. Most concerning of all, they began to influence other species, teaching them human concepts of nationalism, conquest, and territorial expansion. The breaking point came during what historians called the Expansion Wars. Human colonies had begun claiming star systems that belonged to other species. When the Galactic Mediation Council tried to intervene, human fleets attacked their peaceful arbitration ships. The violence escalated quickly, drawing in species that had lived in harmony for thousands of years. Finally, our ancestors made the difficult decision that saved our galaxy, Zara said solemnly. They gave humanity an ultimatum: accept strict limits on population growth, territory expansion, and military development, or face exile from all civilized space. The humans had chosen exile. Within 50 years, they had gathered their populations and disappeared into the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. Their departure had been followed by an immediate and lasting peace. Without human influence, the 5 remaining species had quickly established the Galactic Union and created the harmonious civilization that existed today. Some of our historians believe the humans found suitable worlds in distant galaxies, Zara concluded. Others think they destroyed themselves through internal conflict. What matters is that their departure gave us the gift of peace, and we have treasured that gift for 500 years. The ceremony continued with cultural presentations from each species. The Etherians performed a light symphony that painted stories across the dome's ceiling. The Corvan delegates shared ancient stone songs that made the entire station vibrate in harmony. The mollusks created water sculptures that seemed to dance in the air. The Nexari contributed a complex mathematical pattern that was somehow both beautiful and meaningful. But as the celebration reached its peak, Zara's communication device began buzzing urgently. She excused herself from the main hall and stepped into a private alcove to take the call. The face of Captain Thane, her chief patrol officer, appeared on the screen. The Corvan's usually calm expression showed clear agitation. "Commander, we have a situation." Thane's gravelly voice filled the small space. Long-range sensors have detected a massive energy signature in the Kepler sector. It's not natural, and it's not from any of our technologies. Zara felt her silver skin grow cold. How massive. Bigger than anything we've ever recorded. The energy output is equivalent to a small star, but it's clearly artificial. And Commander... It's moving. Moving where? Toward inhabited systems. We're tracking at least 12 similar signatures across the outer rim. They all appeared simultaneously about an hour ago. Zara's mind raced. Send a reconnaissance ship to the nearest signature. I want full sensor scans and defensive protocols in place, but avoid direct contact until we know what we're dealing with. Already done, Commander. The scout ship Peaceful Dawn is approaching. The signature in the Kepler sector now. We should have preliminary reports within the hour. As Zara ended the call, she realized that the peaceful celebration continuing behind her might be the last of its kind. Whatever was producing those energy signatures was technology far beyond anything the Galactic Union possessed. And there, was only one species in galactic history that had shown such rapid technological advancement. She returned to the ceremony, but her attention was divided. While representatives continued their speeches about eternal peace and cooperation, thoughts kept returning to the energy signatures. The timing felt significant. Today marked exactly 500 years since humanity's exile. Could their return be a coincidence? 3 hours later, as the celebration was winding down, Zara received another urgent message. This time it was from Commander Rex of the scout ship Peaceful Dawn. The Nexari officer's compound eyes were flickering rapidly, indicating extreme agitation. Commander Keth, you need to see this immediately. We've found the source of the energy signature. The main screen in Zara's private office displayed the view from the scout ship's cameras. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Floating in the darkness of space was a structure unlike anything in their records. It wasn't quite a ship and wasn't quite a space station. It seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that pulsed with their own inner light. It's enormous, Commander Rex reported, roughly the size of a small moon, but completely artificial. The energy readings are off our scales. Whatever's powering this thing, it's technology. We don't understand. Any signs of life? That's the strangest part, Commander. We're detecting massive life signs, but they're not matching any known species profiles. The biosignatures are ... unusual. As they watched, the mysterious structure began to change. Sections of its surface opened like flowers, revealing smaller craft that emerged like seeds from a pod. These smaller vessels were still enormous by normal standards, each one the size of a major city. Commander Rex's voice took on an urgent tone. One of the smaller craft is heading directly toward us. Should we withdraw? Before Zara could respond, the approaching vessel sent out a communication signal. The message was transmitted in perfect galactic standard, but the voice that spoke was unfamiliar yet somehow familiar. Greetings to the scouts of the Galactic Union. Do not be afraid. We wish only to talk. We are the ones you knew as humanity, and we have returned home. The scout ship's sensors immediately began analyzing the transmission. The voice patterns matched archived recordings of human speech, but there were subtle differences. The rhythm was slightly off, as if the speaker had learned the language recently rather than grown up with it. This is Commander Rex of the Galactic Union patrol ship Peaceful Dawn, the Nexari officer replied carefully. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. We are the children of those you exiled. 500 years ago, the voice responded. We have spent these centuries learning and growing in the darkness between galaxies. Now we return to reclaim what was taken from us. Zara felt a chill run through her silver skin. The humans had not only survived their exile, but had apparently thrived. The technology they were displaying was centuries ahead of anything the Galactic Union possessed. We seek an audience with your leaders. The human voice continued. There are many things we must discuss. Arrangements that must be made. Accounts that must be settled. The communication ended abruptly, leaving the scout ship alone with the massive human vessel. Commander Rex immediately began transmitting his report back to Harmony Station, but Zara already knew what it would contain. The age of peace was over. The humans had returned, and they were no longer the species that had been exiled 5 centuries ago. As news of the contact spread through the station, the celebration came to an abrupt end. Representatives from all 5 species gathered in emergency session, their earlier joy replaced by fear and uncertainty. The Etherians' lights flickered with agitation. The Corvin delegates formed defensive circles. The mollusks retreated into their chambers. The Nexary's compound eyes darted nervously in all directions. High Chancellor Vox called for order, but his usual golden glow had faded to a worried purple. "Fellow beings," he announced, "we face an unprecedented situation. The species we believed extinct has returned with capabilities we do not understand." Zara stepped forward to address the assembly. "Based on preliminary reports, the humans have not only survived, but have undergone significant technological and possibly biological evolution. They possess ships and energy sources far beyond our current understanding." "What do they want?" asked Elder Grok, the eldest of the Corvan representatives. "They claim to seek an audience with our leadership," Zara replied, "but their language suggests they view themselves as having been wronged. They speak of reclaiming what was taken and settling accounts." The assembly erupted in worried discussions. Some representatives called for immediate military mobilization. Others suggested attempting diplomatic contact. A few even proposed evacuating civilian populations to safe systems. But Zara knew that all their discussions might be meaningless. If the technology she had witnessed was representative of human capabilities, the Galactic Union's defensive fleets would be no match for them. The species they had once considered too primitive and violent to remain in civilized space had apparently spent 5 centuries becoming something far more powerful than their descendants. As the emergency session continued through the night, more reports arrived from across the galaxy. Dozens of massive human structures had appeared in star systems throughout Union space. They made no hostile moves, but their very presence was a demonstration of power that couldn't be ignored. The humans were back, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The reckoning, the emergency meeting had lasted 3 days, but the Galactic Union still had no answers. Every few hours, new reports arrived of massive human structures appearing throughout their space. The vessels made no aggressive moves, but they also ignored all attempts at communication beyond that first cryptic message. Commander Zara Keth stood in the war room of Harmony Station, studying the tactical displays that showed human positions. Across 50 star systems, each red dot on the map represented a structure larger than anything the Union had ever built. The pattern of their placement was clearly deliberate, positioning them near major trade routes and population centers without actually threatening them. "It's a demonstration," she told the assembled military commanders. "They're showing us they can appear anywhere they want, whenever they want." General Roth, the massive Corvan who led the Union's defensive forces, slammed one of his rocky fists against the conference table. "Then we should demonstrate our own capabilities. One coordinated strike against their nearest vessel would show them we're not helpless prey." "With what?" Commander Zara asked pointedly. "Our most powerful weapons, our fusion torpedoes and plasma cannons. Those structures are generating energy signatures that dwarf our entire fleet's output. We'd be attacking with sticks and stones." Ambassador Crix of the mollusk delegation rippled his tentacles in a gesture of concern. "Perhaps we should focus on communication rather than confrontation. These are descendants of the humans we once knew. Surely they can be reasoned with." High Chancellor Vox, who had remained silent for most of the meeting, finally spoke. His ethereal form had lost all color except for a deep, worried blue. 500 years ago, we made the decision to exile humanity because they could not exist peacefully with other species. Have we so quickly forgotten why that choice was necessary?" Before anyone could respond, every screen in the war room flickered and displayed the same image. It showed a human face, but one that had been clearly altered by centuries of technological enhancement. The skin had a subtle metallic sheen, the eyes seemed to contain swirling galaxies, and there were geometric patterns etched along the cheekbones that pulsed with soft light. "Greetings, leaders of the Galactic Union," the figure said in a voice that harmonized with itself in impossible ways. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, speaking on behalf of the human collective. We have waited patiently for 3 days while you debate our presence. Now it is time for us to speak." General Roth reached for his communicator, but the human continued before he could respond. "Do not attempt to interrupt this transmission. We are broadcasting simultaneously to every inhabited world in your territory. What we have to say, all must hear." The image changed to show the interior of one of the massive human vessels. The space was vast beyond comprehension, with structures that seemed to grow from the walls like living things. Beings moved through the corridors, and while they were recognizably human in basic form, they had been changed by centuries of technological integration. 500 years ago, your ancestors gave our people a choice," Admiral Chen continued. "Accept limitations that would have strangled our growth and potential, or leave civilized space forever. We chose exile rather than submit to your vision of peaceful stagnation." The scene shifted to show images of human ships departing the galaxy, followed by views of the dark void between galaxies where they had spent their exile. "You believed that peace could only exist without human influence. You thought that by removing us, you would create a perfect, harmonious civilization. In many ways, you succeeded. Your records show 5 centuries without war, without conflict, without the chaos you associated with humanity." Commander Zara felt a chill as she realized where this was leading. The human was building toward a point, and she suspected it would not be one the Union wanted to hear. "But in creating your peace, you also created stagnation," Admiral Chen continued. "Your technology has barely advanced in 5 centuries. Your populations have remained stable rather than growing. Your exploration of the galaxy has virtually stopped. You achieved peace by choosing not to grow, not to change, not to challenge yourselves." The image shifted again to show human colonies in the void between galaxies, cities that floated in space without stars, powered by technology that seemed to bend reality itself. Beings who were still recognizably human but had evolved far beyond their ancestors. We, meanwhile, have spent these centuries becoming something greater than we were. Free from your restrictions, we have pushed the boundaries of science, technology, and human potential. We have learned to harness dark matter, to manipulate space and time, to merge our consciousness with quantum fields that span light years. The implications were staggering. While the Galactic Union had maintained peace through careful limits and restrictions, humanity had used their exile to evolve into something that might no longer be bound by the laws of physics as other species understood them. "We return now not as the species you exiled, but as something far beyond what you feared we might become," Admiral Chen said. "We have the power to take whatever we want from this galaxy. Your fleets cannot stop us. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your planets exist at our sufferance." General Roth's face darkened with anger, but he remained silent. Every being in the war room understood that this was not an idle boast. The technology they had witnessed made it clear that humanity now possessed capabilities beyond their comprehension. However, the Admiral continued, "We did not return for conquest. We came back because this is our home galaxy, and we have a right to exist here. But we will no longer accept the limitations you tried to impose on our ancestors." The transmission switched to show a view of space where one of the human structures was demonstrating its capabilities. With no visible effort, it began manipulating the very fabric of reality around it. Asteroids rearranged themselves into perfect geometric patterns. A dying star flickered back to life, its fusion restarted by some impossible technology. Space itself seemed to ripple like water. "We offer you a choice, just as you once offered our ancestors," Admiral Chen said. "Accept that humanity has returned to stay, and work with us to build a new galactic civilization that embraces growth and change. Or continue to cling to your stagnant peace and watch as we reshape this galaxy according to our own vision." Ambassador Crix rippled his tentacles nervously. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Integration," the Admiral replied, as if she could hear their discussion. "Not the forced integration you feared from our ancestors, but a voluntary evolution. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our capabilities with any species willing to grow beyond their current limitations." The offer was both tempting and terrifying. The humans were clearly offering to lift the galactic civilization to unimaginable heights of technological achievement. But they were also demanding that the other species abandon the careful balance and controlled growth that had maintained peace for 5 centuries. "And if we refuse?" High Chancellor, Vox asked, though his voice was barely a whisper. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but the geometric patterns on her face pulsed brighter. "Then you will discover what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. We will not be exiled again. We will not accept limitations again. This galaxy is big enough for all of us, but only if all of us are willing to grow." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. The choice humanity had presented was clear, but neither option was appealing to leaders who had spent their entire lives maintaining the delicate balance of the Galactic Union. Over the following days, the human offer divided the galaxy in ways not seen since the original exile. Some species, particularly younger generations who had grown restless with the Union's careful restrictions, were intrigued by the possibility of rapid advancement. Others, especially those old enough to remember stories of the chaos humanity had once brought, wanted nothing more than to see them gone again. The Nexari were the first to break ranks. Their queen announced that her species would accept human technology and guidance in exchange for joining their new galactic order. Within hours of the announcement, Nexari space began to transform. Their ships became faster and more efficient. Their colonies started expanding at unprecedented rates. Their scientists made breakthrough discoveries that had eluded them for centuries. The Etherians split into 2 factions. The younger members of their species were fascinated by human consciousness, technology, and began secret negotiations. The elders retreated to their home systems and declared they would have nothing to do with humanity's return. The Corvan military, led by General Roth, attempted to mount resistance against the human vessels. Their most powerful battle fleet engaged one of the smaller human ships near the border system of Vanguard Prime. The battle lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, the Corvan ships were intact but completely powerless, drifting in space like dead metal. The human vessel was undamaged. "Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses," came a transmission to the defeated fleet. "But neither did we destroy you. Consider this a demonstration of our restraint, not our weakness." As news of the failed attack spread throughout the galaxy, resistance to the human return began to crumble. Species after species announced their willingness to negotiate with the returning humans rather than face the consequences of opposition. Commander Zara found herself in an impossible position. As head of galactic security, her duty was to protect the Union and maintain the peace that had lasted 5 centuries. But it was becoming clear that both the Union and its peace were relics of a bygone era. The final blow came when the mollusks, traditionally the most peaceful species in the galaxy, announced their decision to join the humans. Ambassador Crix explained their reasoning in a statement that shocked the remaining Union loyalists. For 500 years, we have maintained peace by avoiding growth, avoiding change, avoiding anything that might disturb our careful balance, he said. But we have also avoided progress, avoided exploration, avoided reaching our true potential. The humans offer us a chance to become more than we ever dreamed possible. That opportunity is worth the risk. High Chancellor Vox made one final attempt to rally the remaining species. The peace we built is precious, he declared in a galaxy-wide broadcast. It has given us centuries of prosperity and harmony. Are we so eager to abandon it for the promise of power and growth? The response came not from any government or military leader, but from ordinary citizens across the galaxy, young beings who had spent their lives in the carefully controlled environment of the Union, began demonstrating in favor of accepting the human offer. They carried signs reading growth, not stagnation, and evolution, not limitation. Within 6 months of their return, humanity had fundamentally altered the political landscape of the galaxy. The Galactic Union still existed, but only as a shadow of its former self. 3 of the 5 member species had joined the new order, while the remaining 2 had withdrawn to isolated systems. Commander Zara stood once again on the observation deck of Harmony Station, but the view had changed dramatically. Instead of the peaceful trade ships and diplomatic vessels she was used to seeing, space around the station buzzed with activity. Human-designed ships moved alongside vessels from allied species, their sleek forms incorporating technology that would have been impossible just months earlier. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. The screen showed Admiral Chen, but her appearance had changed since their first contact. The geometric patterns on her face had become more complex, and her eyes now held depths that seemed to contain entire star systems. "Commander Keth," the Admiral said with something that might have been respect, "you have served your people well during this transition. We would like to offer you a position in our new galactic administration." Zara considered the offer carefully. Accepting would mean abandoning everything she had believed in for her entire career. But refusing might mean becoming irrelevant in a galaxy that was rapidly changing beyond recognition. "What kind of position?" she asked. "Director of Integrated Security," Admiral Chen replied. "Your job would be to help maintain order as we begin the next phase of galactic evolution. The transition will not be easy, and we need beings who understand both old ways and new possibilities." The irony wasn't lost on Zara. She was being offered a chance to help maintain peace in a galaxy being transformed by the very species once exiled for being too disruptive to coexist with others. "What guarantees do I have that this new order won't descend into the chaos that marked humanity's original expansion?" she asked. Admiral Chen's expression became thoughtful. "None," she admitted. "Growth and change always involve risk. But stagnation is also a risk, one that your Union was taking by avoiding all possibility of conflict. We offer the chance to reach heights you never imagined, but we cannot promise the journey will be safe." As Zara pondered the decision that would define the rest of her life, she looked out at the transformed galaxy around her. Ships that bent space to travel faster than light, stations that existed partially in alternate dimensions, beings who were evolving beyond the limitations of their original biology. The age of careful peace was over. The age of unlimited possibility had begun. And somewhere in the space between order and chaos, between safety and growth, a new galactic civilization was being born. Whether that civilization would prove to be humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy or their ultimate revenge against those who had exiled them remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had kept their promise. They had returned, and they had brought change with them. Whether that change would ultimately be salvation or destruction would depend on choices yet to be made by beings still learning what it meant to live in a universe where humanity was no longer willing to accept limits. Asterisk.